Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
May I present to you the cat?
I am the dog. Well, I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Caleb today.
Yeah.
It's just me and Caleb, dual hosts.
That's it. What the heck is going on here?
Landon didn't want to, be here.
That's it. He didn't want to. That's totally
Yeah, didn't want to. No, Landon's just got some life stuff happening, so Caleb and I decided we'd take these reins and see what happens, right?
See if we're ever allowed to do this again. That's what we're finding out today.
We'll find out. Well, we were wanting to talk about some CES and some things we wanted to at least point out, say something about. Obviously, CES is crazy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You say wanting to talk about CES, and I feel like that might be putting it a little strong.
That might be, yes. Okay, you got me there. Things that we want to comment.
It's
how's that?
Listener, the Consumer Electronics Show is, from year to year, less and less about consumer electronics and more about what is it? I mean, this year it was about quote unquote AI. Just the amorphous concept of artificial intelligence was omnipresent at CES this year. But I don't feel like there was really anything about that was particularly consumer focused. Maybe I'm wrong, listener. Maybe you're going to hear all of the things that we mentioned today and go, oh my heck, this is exactly what I've been needing in my life.
I mean, sure.
In which case, please let us know via email, podcast@callingallplatforms.com, because I'm genuinely curious to know anything about you.
Yeah, that'd be interesting for some of these things. Well, we have a list here that we're going to just kind of talk about and just comment on and go from there on these things that have happened in CES.
Oh, yeah.
So
basically just our favorite things that were revealed at CES.
Well, let's get into it here. Let's start this off here. Well, the first bullet point here we got is some AMD. Caleb, go ahead.
Yes.
Let's talk about this.
AMD has some new APUs that have stupid model numbers. I really don't know what else to say about it beyond that. It's like, you're aware, listener, that AMD is currently on their 7000 series of Ryzen CPUs, I'm sure. These new APUs are the 8000 series of CPUs. Except they're not. To be clear, they're all 7th gen Ryzen processors that have, and you may be thinking to yourself, wait a second, APU, accelerated processing unit, that's just AMD speak for a CPU with integrated graphics. But the 7000 series CPUs all had integrated graphics. Why the crap? No, turns out they've slightly altered the definition of what an APU is. And they are now processors with better included graphics. That's pretty much the difference. They have better GPUs on them.
I'm surprised they didn't call it APU Plus.
That would
or
have been
X.
amazing. Yeah.
Or something.
APU X. And yeah, that's pretty much what they are. They're 8000 series chips. I think they had an 8700X and like an 8700 and then like an 8600 or something like that. There was 3 of them that they announced. There was a 6-core 12-thread and then a couple of 8-core 16-thread ones. And to be clear, they're based off of 7000 series Ryzen, which means they're good CPUs, and they have paired them with significantly more powerful integrated graphics than on the 7000 series processors. So if you want to build a gaming PC and you don't want to, or you don't have the money to put a good graphics card in it now or whatever, this will tide you over for a little while. You'll be able to do your basic 1080p gaming, even with AAA titles, so long as you don't want more than 60 frames per second. And you can get by using just the integrated graphics on these processors until you can afford a much nicer GPU. It's a totally reasonable way to go about building a processor, and frankly, these are good CPUs for that, and I'm here for it. Like in the past, when AMD put together these sort of, it was like the whatever G was always the suffix they put at the end of those, the G models of their processors.
Oh, yeah.
And those were low-end CPUs paired with the best integrated graphics on the market. And these are the best integrated graphics on the market still, but now they're paired with much higher-end CPUs. So instead of feeling like you have to replace your low-end CPU when you do finally get a good graphics card, you'll actually have a decently high-end CPU to begin with. And so you can pair it with a fairly high-end graphics card, and you'll be good to go. So it's not a bad product. It's just really dumb that they're 8000 series CPUs. That's stupid. Now, listener, if you've been paying attention to AMD over the past few years, you may be thinking to yourself, well, yeah, but after we had Ryzen 3000, we skipped to 5000 and then to 7000 because 4000 was just laptop chips that were the same as 3000.
Yeah.
And 6000 was just laptop chips that were the same as 5000. So why am I not surprised that 8000 is now just something else that happens to be the same as 7000? You're right. I guess maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but I'm still annoyed.
No, it is annoying. You can't not say it's not.
Just
gaming.
AMD, stop it. Just stop it.
Do you ever just feel like you wish you could just be naive or new to this and not know the history of it and just be like, oh yeah, that's norm. Yeah, I'll take this new way of learning these graphics cards.
Here's the thing. Ignorance is bliss sometimes, but I don't feel like it is in this case, because that just means that I would look at this and think, oh, 8000 series, that's definitely the one to go for. And I'd be thinking to myself, well, let's see, is the 8-core 16-thread 8000 chip going to be better than the 8-core 16-thread, 7000 chip, even though this one just has an X at the end and this one says X3D at the end and stuff like that. The fact of the matter is, if it says X3D at the end, even if it's a 5000 series chip, it's probably going to be better for gaming than the 8000 series chips, because the extra 3D V cache on those processors makes a huge difference in gaming performance, so long as you're using a discrete GPU along with it, right? The advantage of these 8000 series chips is the integrated graphics. That's it. In every other metric, they are worse than the price comparable X3D chips from 7000 series, and in some cases even 5000 series, which incidentally AMD did also announce a bunch of 5000 series processors that are going to be coming out this year, which is it's been 2 years almost since they said, yes, AM4 is dead. We're moving on to a new platform finally. It's been 7 years, but we are moving on. No, they're not. We're coming up on a decade of the AM4 platform. They're still releasing new CPUs for the thing. Nobody, no processor manufacturer has ever supported a platform that long in the history of tech. So, AM4 is great. If you've got a mid-tier, middle of the road, you bought it AMD Ryzen 3000 series or something like that motherboard, you're going to be able to upgrade that to some new X3D enabled processors on the 5000 series line this year, and they're going to be great for gaming. And it's really cool that they do that. So generally, I'm pretty positive about AMD. I just don't like their naming.
That's true. I guess that's right. I was thinking about that, and I was like, when I was first getting into mostly gaming and graphics cards, I could always rely on at least a higher number means better.
Yep.
So you are right on that.
That used to be the case.
Used to be a case. Well, speaking of stupid names, looks like the next thing, a bullet point we're going to is Nvidia.
Yes. Nvidia had an event. They launched new graphics cards. And all I have to say about that is that they are out the gate early this year, gunning for our worst tech name of the year award of 2024 with the RTX 4070 Ti Super. So Ti being a suffix that's supposed to mean that this is better than the 4070, and Super being a suffix that's supposed to mean this is better than the 4070. And now they coexist, I guess. And how do we decide that the Ti goes before the Super? I don't know. These names have never existed in the same family as each other.
No,
we had
they haven't.
like in the 1000 series GPUs, those we had Ti, right? And then in the 20 series we had Super, and then in the 30 series we had Ti again, and now 40 series has happened and everything's going crazy. We got both. And if you want more evidence that Nvidia has given up on their consumer GPU division, I don't know that I can give you more than this.
Or all that we've been talking about the past few years.
Like it's been, they clearly have forgotten that gamers exist is basically what that comes right down to. And so here you are, the 4070 Ti Super. It's exactly the same as the 4070 Ti, but different. Yay!
Oh, jeez. What would you rather have, Ti Super or Super Ti?
At this point, I'm just going
or Super
you know what?
4070 Ti.
No, here's what I'm going to. This is now the 4070 tissue paper, because if you put Ti and Super and kind of smash them together and then sort of expand that out in your head, it feels a little bit like tissue paper. So
I love it. Yep, you hear it here, listener. This is the 4070 tissue paper. I didn't even see that.
There it is.
There it is. Freaking tissue paper. Well, speaking of tissue paper, I guess that's a good segue.
Speaking of tissues.
Thank you for that segue. We're going to be talking about, yes, listener, a toilet.
It's not CES if there's not stupid toilets.
Yes,
right?
it's true.
This is a fact.
This is a fact. This is technology, and we're here to talk things tech and CES.
And every, there were multiple toilets at this year's CES that were AI enabled. And, there was one that was using quote unquote AI to analyze your urine and tell you stuff about your dietary health. And I just want to point out, it's not actually AI. It's just running the same kinds of tests that doctors do in their office in a little module that attaches to the front of your toilet seat. And I'm like, there's no AI here. You don't need, anyways, that's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is an e-ink toilet. Toilet that has outside almost entirely covered in e-ink displays, has all the bells and whistles you would expect, is voice controlled, will light up when you walk in the room and open for you. It has child safety features to keep little kids from falling in and stuff that basically locks itself. It's got a built-in bidet and heated water and all that stuff, but it won't display Reader's Digest articles while you pee. And I feel like with a bunch of e-ink displays all over it, that was a super missed opportunity.
That was a missed opportunity. Or at least one of those things of like, what is it, 101 jokes while sitting on the toilet or something.
Like it needs to be a toilet side magazine in order to justify the existence of all these e-paper displays, right? Like there's no reason, no other reason to have that.
I agree with you. Got to have some jokes on the toilet, right?
Yep, that's it. Missed the mark.
Oh, I don't have any more comments on this toilet.
Oh, absolutely not. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
We're gonna move on. We're gonna be talking about a pillow here.
Yes.
So I actually didn't see this. Caleb saw this one, so I'm gonna have you describe this a little bit more.
So this is a pillow that will take the responsibility of rolling you over to stop you from snoring off of your partner's shoulder. So your pillow will do that instead of whoever you're sleeping next to. So that's a thing. It has a little microphone. It listens when you start snoring. It's got these air bladders inside of the pillow that are going to inflate and deflate and stuff and get you to roll your head until you stop snoring, either because you woke up or because you now are in a position where you can actually breathe. I don't have like a ton of problems with that right now, but it's become more and more common over the years that, yes, you get older, you end up with a CPAP or something like that just to help you breathe at night, because we've we've been discovering that for the past 40, 50, 100, whatever, 1,000 years, this is why people had a hard time sleeping in their old age.
Yeah.
It's because their airways were closing off and stuff like that. And so, yes, it's a pillow that's supposed to help with that. I don't know how well it works, but I did think it was really funny to watch it roll a bowling ball around on top of the pillow.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but it'll be cool to see actually. And so I do use a CPAP. Obviously, bigger guy. I am bigger, believe it or not. And it'd be interesting to see. But man, when I don't have that CPAP, that pillow is probably going to be working overtime to adjust me. I'm just saying.
What I would love to see is some kind of study as to whether or not it actually does anything.
Right.
Because I suspect that what it would do the most is just wake people up. It's going to start doing its thing, and you're going to be like, oh, what the crap? And you'll wake up and roll over yourself.
Is it loud? Does it all of a sudden just kick on a...
No, I don't think...
Like,
none of the video that I saw of this thing had audio of it. Nobody said it was loud, but I just can't help but think that if your pillow suddenly started undulating and doing the wave under your head, I feel like that would wake me up. Maybe I'm a light sleeper. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I feel like that would wake me up.
Just sit there and maybe just massage your head enough. You're just like, okay, just keep it going.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, let's move on. All right. Looks like here we're looking at little iPhone.
Yes.
Thing here.
This is the Clicks keyboard case, which turns your iPhone into an absurdly tall BlackBerry. We've seen cases like this before. That it just is a case for your phone that puts a BlackBerry style physical QWERTY keyboard underneath it, right? Now, The last time I saw a case like this was on an iPhone with a much shorter aspect ratio on the screen, which meant that for its width, it was not nearly so tall as modern phones are. So this is going to be even worse. And everything that I heard about those older cases, those older versions of this concept, said that it was so top-heavy and unbalanced that it was virtually impossible to actually use the keyboard. That was what they all said.
That really gives it a lot of freaking shape, length there.
It's so long. The thing is
looked it up here. Yes, it is.
It's like holding a freaking foot-long sub in your hand and then trying to type on the bottom 2 inches of it. Oh man, it's going to be so unbalanced and awkward to use. It's kind of stupid but everybody who I saw covering it was all super positive and super enthusiastic about it. And I think it's because the company was started by Mr. Mobile, who's a YouTube tech reviewer personality type who's been in the game for a very long time. And it's a lot of these, the more established tech YouTubers have been over the past few years branching out into some form of income that isn't just relying on YouTube. And LTT will sell you a screwdriver or a backpack. MKBHD will sell you a really cool pair of shoes. Mr. Mobile is selling you the dumbest keyboard that you can get for your phone. I'm sorry, man, but this doesn't look like a usable product.
Yeah.
So,
there's going to be the people that think it's cool. I just didn't know we needed this.
No,
I didn't know that was it's like a step back, doesn't it feel?
I can understand some of the appeal of a physical keyboard, right? It's more tactile, it's more visceral, it's more interactive. It feels more real than just tapping on glass. I get
Correct,
that.
right.
I understand that. But just strapping one of these things onto the bottom of your phone like that, nope, that ain't the way. That ain't the way, dog. Like, if it would make more sense if you had a little keyboard that, like, normally is just flipped up onto the back of the phone via the case, but that you could flip around to the front and it would connect via Bluetooth or something like that when it flipped around. And so that it would sit over the bottom of your screen where your keyboard normally would sit, so that you can still hold your phone like a normal phone when you type on it, instead of having the entire thing suspended above your hand.
I loved, there was one that, it was one of my old phones from Sprint, and one of the first Windows phones I ever had. It was like the HTC Arrive. So it was the same size as, normal smartphone, touch screen, everything. But the keyboard was under the screen, so it flipped up. It's kind of like you push it and it goes tick, and then the keyboard was there, click if I wanted to, but then flip it back and it was normal. I loved that thing. I thought that was pretty cool. It felt good.
And I feel like there's definitely something
see.
there's definitely something to be said for like a landscape keyboard that does this, because if nothing else, like a slider landscape keyboard would give you the ability to get your keyboard off of the fetching screen when you're trying to type in landscape mode, which I don't know if you've done that recently, listener. On modern phones, that thing takes up a ridiculous amount of screen real estate. You can't see jack above it. Like, there's no space.
Right.
So that would be genuinely useful, and I think would hold much better in the hand of this. So, I don't know. The Clix keyboard case looks like a fairly well-made device, but a badly conceived device. I just don't see it being particularly usable, especially when you consider that it's supposed to be a phone case, which means you leave it attached to your phone at all times, which means your phone is going to be like an extra 2 inches taller than it is right now. And like, I mean, my phone is tiny, but even that I don't think would fit in my pocket. Like,
right.
Like, we already make jokes about like, oh, is that your phone in your pocket? Or are you just happy to see me? But this would look so much worse.
It would.
You
thought,
problems.
It would.
It's problems. Like you'd have situations with like the bigger phones, the Pro Max iPhones or whatever, where you'd have this case on there and women wouldn't be able to fit it into their purses anymore. It would be too long. Like, who thought this was a good idea? I don't know.
Yeah, and you'd have to replace a lot of your wireless charging if you had it. You couldn't just set it. You had to the ones that had like clips to hold it or something. Those ones, not the ones you can just set down, obviously, but
right,
because it doesn't have a charger in the bottom, right?
I don't think so. It might have pass-through charging. I can't remember. But yeah, like if you want to do wireless charging, you're going to have to like have a MagSafe charger so that it actually clips onto it. Because if it's just a puck that it sets on, then it's going to tip off of it.
Yeah, it's
And if you've got like one of the vertical portrait style chargers, it's not going to line up with the coil anymore. It'll be way too tall for that.
Yeah.
And it may just tip off the back of it anyways. I don't know. It looked really silly, though. I did appreciate the silliness.
Well, let's go ahead and move on from the silliness to, I guess, other silliness? I don't know.
Yeah.
Bugatti?
This was totally serious. Yes, at the Consumer Electronics Show, Bugatti, a famously consumer-oriented electronics brand. Wait, no, sorry. A famously not consumer-oriented automotive brand. Right. That's what I meant. They sell exclusively multi-million-dollar supercars. That's it. Like, the cheapest that the Bugatti Veyron ever got was $1 million. So cool. Bugatti was there. They had e-scooters that were Bugatti branded.
Cool.
They were 100% just generic e-scooters made at the same factory in China that makes all the other generic e-scooters that you see like at Sam's Club or whatever. But it has Bugatti badges on it and apparently costs... It didn't seem like an outrageous amount of money. I don't remember exactly how much it cost, and I didn't write it down. But it cost a little bit extra for the Bugatti branding. And I was looking at that and I'm like, how is this different than like buying a wireless speaker that says Polaroid on it? This just feels like brand dilution. And why
Yeah.
is Bugatti diluting their brand? That's like the weirdest thing. But yeah, they had a Bugatti Chiron sitting on the show floor surrounded by e-scooters. That was their booth. And I'm just like, what?
Maybe this is how they get a little extra money. I don't know, from Bugatti customers.
Because they're not getting enough money from Bugatti customers. Every
Maybe.
car they
I don't
make
know.
is like every car that rolls off of Bugatti's quote unquote assembly line. It's not really an assembly line in the traditional sense, but every car that they make is bought and paid for before they start building it. And they roll off the assembly line, and it's like, $2 million
That's
to
already someone else's.
some dude in Dubai or whatever. And it's the business model of Bugatti supercars and generic e-scooters are so far removed from each other that none of this makes sense to me. I don't get it.
Yikes. All right, let's move on. I have nothing else to say about it. All right, let's talk about this Rabbit R1.
Yeah, so this thing, I think, may have been the most talked about, single most popular device mentioned at CES. This is essentially a $200 AI assistant that controls software for you and can be trained to steal artwork. So it's the most AI thing that was there. Like one of the demos for this thing, they literally had they were basically teaching it how to remove watermarks from photos on the internet. And that's called theft. Just saying, that is a straight up copyright violation. Yeah, it's just a little doodad, a little doohickey. It's actually kind of similar to that AI button that we talked about a couple of months back. In that it is supposed to have an AI assistant that is going to control your stuff for you using natural language interactions and that kind of thing.
Yep.
It is the way that they've designed these things, and this one in particular, it is a separate piece of hardware that runs the actual AI model on it. The hardware for this was actually designed by Teenage Engineering, who are the same hardware design firm that designed the Playdate, which I thought was interesting. So it's cute. Yeah. It's a cute little plastic box with a fun little dial on it and everything, and a neat little black and white screen. It actually looks quite nice. And honestly, pretty chill and fun in the same way that the Playdate does. And at $200, it costs about the same too. But it runs an AI model, and then it has the ability to hook into software via your standard user input devices, right? Like it uses keyboard hooks and mouse hooks or touchscreen hooks. That's how it interacts with software, the same way that you would. And they've done their own training regime for the model itself to teach it stuff like, this is what an order button looks like, this is what a settings button looks like, and so on and so forth, so that you can just tell it to do things in a specific piece of software, and it's just gonna take a screenshot of the software, look at the thing, and try to go, okay, where would I find this stuff? Which is, I mean, if you're if you're the tech service provider for your family, you may recognize that as being the sort of thing that you do as well when it asks you a question. So, that's pretty cool. And ostensibly, if it doesn't know, or if it can't figure out how to do something, you can train it to do that thing by showing it how to do it. But instead of it being like training a macro in Word where it's just going to repeat the exact actions that you do, it's going to be taking that input and then, mixing it with all the other stuff in its AI black box brain and using that information to try and figure out how to do stuff. So you teach it how to remove a watermark from a photo in Photoshop. It's not going to just go to the same spot on the picture and do the exact same stuff that you did. It's going to look at the whole picture and go, okay, which parts of this picture look like a watermark? And then it'll go to those parts and go, okay, how do I think I get rid of this using the tools that they showed me how to use before? So again, theft, but it looks interesting, I suppose, if you're into that.
Again.
I would caution, some tempering of expectations because Apple said that this is what Siri was going to be able to do in like 2012. So that's not happened. And Google said that this is what the assistant was going to be able to do in like 2017, 2018 kind of thing. And still not there. So, you know, I'm just saying maybe don't get too excited.
Agreed. I saw this. It was interesting, but I thought the same thing when it was like, look, we can erase a watermark. I'm like, wait a minute.
That's really where you went with that. Okay.
Is this? And then, of course, I'm like, rabbit hunt. It's white rabbit, matrix. Interesting. I started going down my own thoughts. Like, I better not.
You started going down the rabbit hole. Hey.
See? Get it? All right, we'll move on here. LG. Looks like they have a concept car.
Oh, man. Yes. So LG, the maker of your TV and your dishwasher, weirdly, they had a concept car at the event showing off their vision of what driving is going to be like in the future. This is essentially just a car full of monitors and also a fridge, which was not actually a car. It was just a nice place to sit with a bunch of monitors that all looked very nice because LG Display makes very nice displays. And there was a built-in fridge because it's supposedly going to be able to autonomously go and pick up your groceries and whatnot, which is a thing that's really easy to say, not a thing that's actually easy to do.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that this car, it had wheels on it. I don't think anybody ever saw it move under its own power. I'm not convinced there were motors of any kind. I don't think it's a real car. Like, I don't think this concept was actually a functional vehicle in any way, shape, or form. It was just a place where they could show off that, here's a sliding freezer fridge thing that comes out from under the quote unquote dashboard. And instead of having a windshield and windows, you're going to have these super high resolution OLED display panels and stuff like that, which is awesome and great and fantastic and definitely as good as just a window.
Yes.
I don't.
Concepts.
Every time I see one of these concept cars that's all like, we're going to go full on iRobot with this sucker. There's no windows. It drives itself. Doesn't actually have any wheels on it. They're like giant ball bearings shoved into the bottom of the car and whatnot. And I'm just like, did you guys watch all of iRobot? Because that thing wrecked itself and then tried to kill the driver. Like, I don't know why this is what we're trying to emulate about all of these science fiction shows we've seen is make the cars more efficient, make them generate their own fuel, make them powered by like butterflies and flowers or something like that. Like that seems like much more useful development for cars than just, hey, fill it with TVs. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
progress,
my personal thoughts.
We must be a different generation. I
don't know. It's like I remember the Jetsons. Like, I didn't really watch the Jetsons growing up, but I remember the Jetsons. And when the Jetsons, like in the 50s, they were looking to the future of like, here's what automotive travel will be like. They weren't thinking, oh yes, a car that drives itself and is full of TVs. They were thinking a car that flies.
I know.
And I'm still sitting over here going like, I get that the concept of a flying car is just very difficult to achieve and that sort of thing. But I feel like solving traffic on the roads is a much more noble goal than here's a freezer in the front of your car. I
have to agree with you.
Just a lot of messed up priorities here, you know? The Jetsons would have solved traffic. Did they need a fridge in their car? No, because they could get places before stuff warmed up. That's the secret here.
Problem solved. Creating a solution to not a problem.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of solutions to not a problem.
Oh, man.
Maybe. Samsung Bali.
Yes. Okay, so, listener, The next 4 items here, I'm going to just present them all together because
go ahead.
they're all extremely related to each other, and they all tell a very hilarious / bleak and upsetting story. Okay? So, Samsung demonstrated the Bali. This is actually a repeat from last year's CES. They've slightly redesigned the thing. What this is essentially just a little home robot droid thing that's going to monitor your home and can essentially like babysit your dog. They show it playing videos for your dog and monitoring your dog's behavior and stuff like that. That's the sort of thing that this can do. It was displayed alongside, so if you don't like the Bali, you have another option, the Oro Dog Pet Nanny, which is a little robot that rolls around your home and babysits your dog. So both of those kind of go along with something from Zoo Gears, which is a dog piano. It's like a little set of keys that are going to sort of teach your dog to play, quote unquote, play the piano, interact with these keys in a specific way, and can dispense treats for them when they do something correct. So it is basically just babysitting your dog. And then finally, One by One Music is a Japanese startup that this year has come out with a subscription service that they will be using AI-generated music that is specifically tailored to help your dog handle its separation anxiety caused by all of the robot babysitters that you've bought for the thing, because dogs are pack animals and you've left them alone. Like, it's just such a horrible... It's like, yes, here's CES, here's all the robot babysitters for your dog, and then here's a company that's all like, all of our dogs have separation anxiety, we're going to solve it with AI-generated music. And I'm sitting here like, or just, I don't know, hang out with your dog? Maybe you shouldn't have bought a dog? I don't know. Like, listener, if you're the type of person who wants a pet, but you're not going to be able to spend a significant portion of your day, like I'm talking hours out of every day, interacting with it in a meaningful way, right? Playing with toys, going on walks or runs or something like that, then don't get a dog.
Yeah.
Like, may I present to you the cat? It sleeps for 14 hours out of the day and literally couldn't care less whether or not you're dead, right? But if you're nice to it, it will be affectionate sometimes. And that's probably all the dopamine that you really need out of this animal. Otherwise, you could get like a snake or a lizard. They care about you even less. Fish, they don't even know you exist. So there's other options than, getting a poor dog that, yeah, they're pack animals. They want to interact with other members of their pack. They're very, very, very social creatures. And you just leave it home alone all day with a robot. That's not going to end well. No wonder they all have separation anxiety. And if you did buy a dog and you're wondering why it doesn't seem quite as loving or interactive or social as the puppies you had when you were a kid, this is why.
Yep. Bingo.
Oh man. This was like, that was the section of CES. I was like, wow, this is like an Orwellian dystopia right here.
Yep. Oh, geez. Yeah, it's. I only saw I think it was the Samsung Bali one that went around it, and it would also display things and whatnot. I just sat there and it's like, babysit your dog. I'm like, my dog would be terrified.
Oh yeah.
Like, we have a Roomba. It's not a Roomba, it's like off-brand. We call it, speaking of Jetsons, we call it Rosie. But it'll go off, and Rosie will go off, and the dog goes crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, having this little thing just walk up to it wanting to play, that dog will freak. I probably would not have any more blinds. I mean, my bed would be a wreck. Like,
oh, man.
Just thinking about it, I was like, this seems like a really bad idea.
Yep.
But to each his own, I guess. Anyway.
I guess. And can I just say, the poor dogs of all the rich people that can afford stuff like this. Like,
I guess.
I feel bad for those dogs.
Okay, let's get into here. The next thing here on the bullet point, Swarovski Optics.
Yes, Swarovski Optics released an AI-powered binoculars that will ID and take pictures of birds for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun. Like, if you want to be a bird watcher, but you don't really want to be a bird watcher, let's be honest, you really just want to go sit in the forest and look at the trees all day and have an excuse to do it, you can buy this pair of binoculars, and then it has, again, a built-in computer that's running an AI model to identify species of birds and small animals and stuff like that you might be looking at through binoculars. And you can even set it up to snap photos of those creatures when you see them. So that's, I mean, it's
neat.
Actually kind of cool.
It's
like,
neat.
I will give them that this is one of the few instances where I can think of an actual pants consumer electronic device that it makes sense to have AI. Because otherwise, in order to be a bird watcher, right, you can't just have a pair of binoculars, right? If you're going to be a bird watcher, you're going to go bird watching. It's not just about looking through binoculars at birds. It's about looking through binoculars at birds and knowing what you're looking at. And in the past, that required you to have an encyclopedic knowledge and understanding of the Audubon book or whatever, like it required a ton of research. And if you weren't super into birds, it just wasn't practical. This takes the research aspect off of it and just lets you go out into nature, having a good time looking at critters, moving around, doing whatever critters do, and it'll tell you what you're looking at. Though I will note that it does make it sound a little bit like a video game. Like if you're cruising around like No Man's Sky or something like that, and it's like, hey,
it's like,
scanning. Oh, here's that. That's what that is.
See, that's what they need to do. They need to put achievements on it. How many, like
there
a
you go.
Pokemon Go achievement, something.
Here's the thing. Bird watching is a culture that already has achievements. Every bird you identify and get a picture of, that's an achievement. And I guarantee there are websites you can go to that will let you create a profile and upload photos of all the birds you've seen. And you can collect them and stuff like Pokemon, like real life Pokemon. And these are the binoculars to enable that, because it'll identify the thing and then take a picture of it for you
and upload it.
Yeah. So these things are basically it's Pokeballs in your pocket. That's what this is.
Pokemon Go with binoculars. There you go. See? I think we just got somebody excited about going out looking at birds.
Probably did. Yep. I do not know how much these things are going to cost. I can't imagine they're going to be cheap, because let's be honest, a good pair of binoculars, just due to the complexity and the quality of the optics, they're already like $800. So for like low end but good quality binoculars. So these things are going to be reasonably good optically, plus all of the computing and AI features and stuff like that. Yeah, it's thousands probably.
So we're going to move on. I just read the next one, actually.
Yes.
This one. Have you ever wanted a robot to give you a manicure? Go ahead, Caleb.
This thing. So this is the Nimble. It is a manicure robot that will do your nails, but only if you are truly the Kwisatz Haderach.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not, an old lady is going to stab you with a poison needle. Remember, death is the mind killer. Or fear is the mind killer. Oh my gosh, I can't even quote. No, so this thing, it's a box that you put your hand into, and it does your nails, right? Supposedly. Right. But I don't know if you've watched Dune.
Yeah.
But there's a box that you put your hand into. And if you take it out too soon, you get stabbed with the Dagom Jabbar and you're dead. And anyways, that's what it looks like. And I don't know how good it is at doing nails, how good it is at making a manicure happen. If it is good, then there's probably people, that would really love to have this thing. People that really care about their nails as a mode of physical self-expression and that sort of thing. That's fine. Nothing against that lifestyle. And if this thing works really well, then that's a pretty cool accessory to have. but I just can't get over the fact that it looks like the little box that Paul Atreides sticks his hand into. It's white instead of black. I guess that helps a little bit, but yeah, I half expect the Reverend Mother to be sitting next to it every time you put your hand in.
This would be, if this works, I could pretty much just say I'm a nail tech, and when people come over, I say, put your hand in the box. What colors? Fill them up. All right, go ahead. That'll be $40, please. Thank you. Or however many. I don't know how much that's cost.
I actually am pretty sure that depending on the quality of the service, $40 would be a steal for a single nail. Trip.
See, I could get a lot of people.
So,
it'd be fast, right? Just done.
Theoretically,
get a line.
If this thing works well, you may go to your nail salon and they're just going to have two of these sitting on either side of the chair, and there will be a technician that just comes up and is all like, "Okay, now just put your hands in there," and then they walk away, and you sit there for 20 minutes while this robot does your nails, and then you leave. Boy, will that ever change the
nails out of the home.
lot.
There you go. I might keep an eye on this one. Nails out of my home. Where I live, have instead of the old ladies going into town, I'll just be like, no, just come over to my house. Here you go, ladies.
Yeah, open up a nail salon.
All I have to do is serve lemonade and fill up the nail, polish.
Just have to stock like a whole ton of nail polishes, and I guess the little what are the extensions and whatnot made out of?
What are the nail extensions? We'll just call them.
Yeah,
I don't think there's
I don't know what they're resin.
Some
plastic?
poly.
I don't know.
Serpent thing.
Yeah,
or something
poly
like that.
something.
Anyway, cool. We're gonna go ahead and move on. We're gonna talk about CPR dummies.
This thing. Look, I just wanted to mention this. The guy has a name. Guy. I called it a guy just now. That's weird. It's a CPR dummy. It's not a dude. But it's a CPR dummy that is more biologically complete than some actual people. It breathes. It has ribs. It will apparently, based on the input and setup for specific, training scenarios, it will even pee blood if that's what if you need to get your I guess your EMTs trained on how to handle specific, very
Hey, you went
specific
too far.
issues.
You made it pee blood.
It's like, oh crap. But yeah, it's designed to breathe, to mimic basically all of the major biological functions. It has a pulse and heartbeat and blood flow and that kind of thing. And, you can practice stuff like puncturing a collapsed lung to reinflate it and that sort of thing. And they're saying that via software update, they're going to be adding speech capabilities using a Chat GPT enabled voice box, which is somebody I saw a video. They did point out it seems like a bad idea to grant the power of speech to a dummy that is meant exclusively for torture. Right? This thing exists so that we can practice doing things like setting broken limbs and puncturing deflated lungs and that kind of thing. It's just gonna scream all the time.
Yeah. just
in constant pain. Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
Or if you push too hard, it goes ooh, or it makes a fart sound, whichever.
It was an impressive looking dummy, and I don't know. There's probably med schools are probably really excited about this, but I doubt that you're ever going to see one yourself, listener. Once again, there's a lot of products like this that sort of stretch the definition of the consumer electronics show. Consumers don't have CPR dummies of any sort, let alone the most sophisticated CPR dummy that can breathe and scream in pain and pee blood. So there you go. CES, man. I don't know.
CES. Man, these are a lot of... I'm going to add one more thing here at the end, just because I think we should end at a really funny note. We talked about it earlier, but before we started recording, but Razer, the one that wanted to bring us a mask that would light up for us during COVID.
They did. Yeah, the light up RGB mask that had the clear face shield so that you could see the creepily illuminated smile of the person behind it look like
That also had a microphone
nightmare.
to help. You could augment
Yep.
your voice, and so you could sound like
Yep.
Darth Vader if you wanted to while talking.
Yep.
Cool stuff. Well, they decided to show a butt rumbling thing for games. Yep, a butt rumbling thing that
It's
how do I explain this?
it's like the Rumble Pack for your N64 controller, but for
Yes.
your butt
Butt
instead.
for your butt.
That's what it is.
So what was it? Last year they came out with a full on your gaming chair. It
They
would
had
do
like a
certain
whole
rumbles.
chair that was like a haptic feedback chair.
Yes.
And this is like the tamed, like lame version of that. And I can't help but think that this just would seem to indicate that Razer is losing their edge.
Yes. Yep. The edge was a little dull.
That Razor's
there.
edge isn't working out for you so well. Guys, come on, just the chair. You shipped
just-
the goofy, stupid face mask thing. Why don't you
I can't-
just sell the chair?
I can't help to think that this would be one of those party things or something you would psych somebody out with. Like, hey, I want you to sit in this chair and I want you to play Jurassic Park, and you're about to get to the T-Rex paddock, and all of a sudden the chair just goes brrr, and then everyone turns around like, whoa, Steven, settle down. And then it does it again. It's not me. Brrr. I don't know. Just
Yeah, I get the idea of haptic feedbacks for
Yeah.
games and that kind of thing, but I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Even in the wildly unrealistic space of video games, the only places where it's realistic to have the thing you're sitting on shake along with the game is very large explosions in close proximity to you, or driving simulators.
I guess I could see also flying. Microsoft Flight Simulator,
yeah.
maybe kind of the feel
Well,
of that, maybe.
I
But
mean,
a
maybe,
simulator.
but that's less of like a rumble through your butt than it is like you actually feel the chair moving and that kind of thing. And it's not
Okay,
going to
yes.
do that,
Yeah.
you know.
True.
Like
Can you feel the difference between each car with your butt?
that's the only
Is
thing I
this-
can think of. Like having this in a driving simulator, it's all like, yeah, okay, the engine's running, the chair is rumbling. This is sort of car-like. I get it. But other than that, like, because you know what's going to happen is this thing is going to be sitting in there. It's going to be responding to just the audio levels of the game. And it doesn't know how to tell
Yeah.
whether or not an explosion just happened or whether or not your character is shooting a gun. Because, like, you shooting a rifle is not going to make your butt shake. That's not how rifles work.
That's not how this works.
That hits your shoulder, not your tush. And I just can't. I can't help but I can just imagine you're playing Call of Duty or something like that. A grenade goes off right next to you. The chair rumbles, and you're going to be like, "Wow, that feels kind of cool." And then you pick up a submachine gun and pop, 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 and your butt rumbles, and it's not gonna. That's just not right, Razer. You've kind of missed the ball here. I feel like.
I guess we'll have to see it in action. Like,
Oh.
what does it rumble to exactly? Or because then you got to replace batteries or plug it in. I don't know.
Yeah, having a chair that plugs in has always been kind of a like,
Yeah.
let's not do that, maybe.
Yeah. I don't
Unless it's like a really nice recliner or something like that. But none of them are. These gaming chairs, they're all standard computer chairs. They're on casters. They wheel around. And that's just a great way to run over cords with your chair.
Yep.
I already have a hard time avoiding that. I don't need more.
right on, right?
I
Like,
don't need the chair itself plugged into something. That's just problems.
oh, that's why I try to go wireless with headphones and things. Like,
Yeah.
Anywho, that was kind of the last point. Unless you can think of anything else you want to talk about CPS or CES.
No. There was, like I said, the buzzword of the week was AI. And listener, we were discussing this before the podcast. We feel like it might not be a bad idea for us to just back off from the whole like AI as an individual product thing and talk about AI from like an industry-wide perspective. so that we can kind of have an opportunity to explain what AI is, kind of how it works and how it doesn't work, and where it might actually make sense to have AI in your life right now, today.
Right.
Because I feel like those first two get talked about a little bit. The third one almost never gets talked about. And those are the things that the average consumer actually needs to know. Does the average consumer need to know that the toilet is using AI to flush? No. Also,
No.
the more you know about AI, the more you know that that doesn't make any sense. So,
Correct.
Yeah, we'll do that some other time, though.
Yeah,
This was
that's
more.
a whole...
This is more a celebration of the weird and wacky, wild crap that comes out of CES, and we had some good ones this year.
There was some wacky, wild stuff. Like, there's stuff we haven't even talked about. This is just highlights
plenty.
that we want to talk about. If you want to see different automated showers, more toilets, more of these running balls, these robots, these, by all means, there's plenty. Multiple screen laptops.
Yep.
You name it. It's all there. So if you want to check it out, it's pretty fun to see where people, like you said, there's things that, like the full car with monitors but doesn't have an engine. Like it's those concepts.
So weird.
Well, we're going to go ahead and bring the CES talk to a close on this here, and we appreciate you, listener, for listening. And I'm going to assume Landon doesn't have one more thing because obviously he's not here.
That would be really weird if there is one.
You know what? Just in case, I'm going to leave this here in case while Landon's taking care of this and he's got one more thing. We'll leave this spot right here, Landon, just for you.
No, I don't have one more thing. Sorry.
All right, dear listener, we appreciate you listening. Have a good week.
Bye-bye. Oh, okay, Landon. Remember the time that you weren't recording with us and you did put a see ya right on the end? You should do that again, because that was funny.
Okay. See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.